Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I had several requests over a period of time, not all at once, to basically ask how the indoor Phalaenopsis are doing. These were deliberately bought as a project to grow in the home. These do not see the grow room. Well, they are now because they're getting filmed out here. But they do get grown in the home, so I'm replicating the circumstances that many others have got, which was the idea of the project, if you see what I mean. Now, I'll put a link at the end of the video to the mid-season update that I did. There's a video after that one done in the autumn where I had an idea of putting these up in a cool bedroom to perhaps trigger the spikes, because some say the drop in temperature in the autumn triggers the spikes. You have to bear in mind that will only work if it's an autumn-winter bloomer. If it's a summer bloomer, which a good few of them are, then it's not going to work. So in the end I forgot to do it, so it didn't get done. So I'll link back to the previous update, which is a long time ago, you know, sort of literally a mid-season update last year. So we haven't looked at them since in any detail. And I'll do the comparison in today's video to that one. So there'll be a link to that video, I think that was part 14, and I'll put a link to the whole playlist as well if anybody's interested in watching the whole series that didn't actually know it existed. Well, you do now. So this was literally, they were bought on the principle of pretty blooms must have. So there was a sea of Phalaenopsis in the cellophane sleeves with just the blooms sticking up. And I chose two plants with blooms I liked, without looking at the pots, without lifting them up, without doing anything. I just bought them as they were, which you can sort of see in the first video of the playlist if you want to go back that far. So they were unknown. They could have had no roots, rotten roots. As it happens, they didn't have bad roots. They weren't too bad. And as it turns out, one of the plants had two plants in the pot. Oh, God. I didn't expect the heater to come on. Let me just bump that. Need to go down, don't I? That should shut it off. Just for now. Thank you. I'll put it back to where it should be in a minute. Anyway, so I'll do these in the sequence I did them in that part 14 update. So the way I differentiate is that there's three plants. Only one of them's got a tag, which is its trade name. Yeah, which was Anthura Amsterdam. It's a mass producer or mass seller, possibly, could be an intermediary, that gives their Phalaenopsis the names of cities. So this one was Amsterdam, but it's not an official name, it's a trade name, so don't worry about that. Okay, and we have mature leaves. There's no vegetative growth going on. It's put up a pathetic spike, but then this is its first blooming, having left those precise conditions of the nursery. Some Phalaenopsis, having left those mass producers, can take 2 years before they even think about blooming. But anyway, I have a spike. We have one blasted bud, which is going to fall off. I've made up my mind. Which leaves two buds and a possible extension, which is a pathetic spike, quite honestly. And to do the plant the world of good, it ought to be cut off, but I'm going to let it bloom. You know, most people would probably want to see the blooms. So what we've got, I'll benchmark this at the moment. We've got 5 leaves. This is a juvenile leaf. So this is not far off a seedling leaf, probably its first mature leaf from a seedling. And then we've got 2 lower leaves. This one slightly undersized. This one with a split in it. This one decided to be a fat leaf but shorter, and then the leaf that I can't remember whether I've grown that one, but I've definitely grown this one, and this started out with a split in it as well, which has partially healed up. But this plant obviously has a tendency for split leaves, because this one and this one have gone that way. So as far as root growth is concerned, we've got some roots in here. There's some active root tips going on. It's not a bad root system. There's some that have tried to get out the, whoops, chucking me bark all over the place, tried to get out the bottom. But it's doing okay. And come the spring, when the nighttime temperatures are better, because obviously my heating goes off while I'm in bed, and the house does drop down to sort of fit, well, 16 degrees on some nights, which for a Phalaenopsis is a little cooler than they would like. So once we get past that point and the nights aren't dropping down, they will get repotted. Although the bark looks okay, it's been in there a while, and we do have some algae, so they'll get repotted, which will be a matter of shaking off the old bark and putting them in new media. It will not be a dramatic event for the plant. It'll be an adjustment for the plant, because I won't attempt to get every little bit of old bark off the roots or anything like that. Just lift it out, shake off the old bark, gently put it in some new bark, so minimum root disturbance. So that's that one. And then the other two, we have a small one and a bigger one, and it's getting more and more difficult. The only way I can differentiate really now is the fact that this is in a smaller pot, but this is the small one. This has matured another leaf. This has got a good root system. There's plenty of roots in there, looking in good colour in the main. Around the bottom of the pot, some aerial roots. They're never going to do as good as they could do in perfect conditions, because they've got dry air around them. That's never going to do them any good. And I'm not going around spraying aerial roots 2 or 3 times a day to keep them moist. So this plant is okay. It's grown leaves, or leaf. No, leaves. I think it's grown 2. It's dropped 1. And we currently have, same as on the other one of the original leaves. That would have been one of its first maturing leaves. Then we've got a good size one over here. One not so big but fatter over this side. And then we've got the 2 that I believe I've grown that are a reasonable size compared with what's on the plant. So it's doing okay. No sign of any spikes, so it could be that this variety is a summer bloomer, and the spikes will come in the spring. And this I call the mother one, because it was the bigger one of the 2 in the same pot. No other reason than that. That's why the plant had 2 spikes. It wasn't 2 spikes on a plant at all. It was 2 plants with a spike on each. But nonetheless, that's how it was sold, you know. So we've got nothing going on here at the base, so no new roots. But we've got roots growing and a good root system in here. Just put it down, pick it up again. The only problem with this is, although it's got a good root system in the pot, it wobbles. It's not that secure. But the roots in the pot are good, and there's plenty of them, so it's not going to fail or anything like that. This is the latest leaf to mature. It's a good size compared with the rest on the plant, so that's a bonus. And on this one we've got a pair of older leaves down here, a pair of slightly newer leaves, and then a pair that I believe I've grown. And the plant itself is leaning over sideways a bit, which is how they prefer to grow. They do naturally hang off a branch or a trunk that way round. Again, good roots. It's a good root system in here. Some active tips. But like I said, there's some algae getting about, because these haven't been shielded. They haven't been put inside a black pot. So they do get the light, which enables the algae to grow. So now somebody's going to ask what the moss is for. The moss was to help keep the visible and aerial roots a little bit moister in the house, if you see what I mean. It didn't work because it dries out too quick. So when they get repotted, that's coming off as well. We'll have a think about what they're going to get repotted into. So I've just seen something really interesting out of the corner of my eye. Never mind, we'll deal with that later. So those are the 3 store-bought Phalaenopsis and the state of play as they are now. I don't profess to be a Phalaenopsis grower. Out here in the grow room, I've got a couple of mounted ones and one I was given as a seedling, which is a species. And I've got these 3 in the house. I don't want any more. They don't do that well in the grow room. It's too cold in the winter for them. They do okay in the house, but I don't want a house full of orchids. I want a grow room full of orchids, which I've already got. So I don't need... And these are big strappy things. Out in the grow room, these big thick fleshy leaves, you pick the pot up and they knock things, you know, they bump into things and that. So they're just not ideal for growing out here. Plus they just don't do very well out here anyway. So that's the state of play. And they're doing okay. I'm quite pleased with them. I've got no worries about them. They will get a repot come the better night temperatures in the house. You know, that'll be at the end of March into April, I suspect, when we sort of think about having the heating on less and all that sort of stuff, and the nights don't drop down as much outside, in which case they don't drop down as much inside. So we'll review the situation then, but they're doing okay. You know, I'm not getting failed leaves. I'm not getting the sort of problems people worry about with these marks on the leaves, brown patches, leaf tips going black. I'm not getting any of those problems. The plants themselves look pretty healthy. They could have better root systems, mind, but maybe some new media will deal with that. They don't seem to be growing many roots from the base of the plant, unless they're down underneath and I can't see them. But there is a bit of branching going on the existing roots that are down in the pot. So there we are. That's a quick update on the store-bought Phalaenopsis. See you next time.